Hello everyone, welcome back to our Certified in Cybersecurity series. Today, we're exploring Domain 3, Access Controls Concepts. This domain makes up 22% of the exam, making it a critical focus area. Understanding both physical and logical access controls is essential for safeguarding your organization's assets. If you missed our previous videos on Domain 1 and Domain 2, don't worry, those links are in the description below. We will start with some key exam pointers to help you grasp the foundational concepts, and then we'll dive into practice questions to test your knowledge. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's get started. First up, let's talk about physical access controls. Badge systems, these are your go-to for identifying and controlling who gets into certain areas. Think of them as your electronic ID cards that use RFID or magnetic strips to grant access. Gate entry, these are physical barriers, like gates or turnstiles, that require a badge or biometric scan to get through. They help keep unauthorized folks out. Environmental design, this is all about designing your space to enhance security. A key concept here is CPTED, or crime prevention, through environmental design. This approach uses design strategies to reduce crime by increasing natural surveillance, controlling access, and reinforcing territoriality. It's like building a modern-day castle. You create layers of defense, starting with secure perimeters, well-placed lighting, and strategically positioned security cameras. The idea is to make it as difficult as possible for unauthorized individuals to breach the facility, just like a castle would protect its occupants. Now, how do we monitor all this? Security guards, they're the boots on the ground, patrolling and enforcing your physical security policies. They manage access control points and respond to incidents. CCTV or closed-circuit television, these cameras monitor and record activity, acting as both a deterrent and a tool for investigating any security breaches. Alarm systems, these electronic systems alert you to unauthorized entry or other security breaches. They're triggered by motion sensors, door sensors, and more. Logs, don't forget the logs, these are records of who accessed what and when. They're crucial for auditing and investigating any incidents. So, who gets in? Authorized personnel, these are the folks with permission to access certain areas, based on their role or clearance level. Unauthorized personnel, anyone without permission. Your physical security measures, like locks and surveillance, are there to keep them out. Next, let's shift gears to logical access controls. This is all about controlling who can access your digital resources. Principle of least privilege, this principle is straightforward, only give users the minimum access they need to do their job. This way, you reduce the risk of misuse or a potential breach. Segregation of duties, this is about dividing responsibilities so that no single person has control over all parts of a critical process. For example, one person might authorize a transaction, another records it, and a third person audits it. This reduces the chance of fraud or errors. Discretionary access control, or DAC, in DAC systems, the owner of a resource decides who can access it. They have the discretion to grant and modify permissions as they see fit. Mandatory access control, or MAC. MAC is a more rigid system where access is based on predefined security labels. Users get access based on their clearance level, and the rules are enforced by the system, not the user. Role-based access control, or RBAC. In RBAC, access is tied to the user's role in the organization. Each role has specific permissions, making it easier to manage access rights across the board. Now, let us move on to our practice questions. Which physical security control is most effective in preventing unauthorized access to a secure facility? The options are: Option A, badge systems. Option B, gate entry systems. Option C, environmental design. Option D, security guards. Let's analyze the options to identify the most effective physical security control for preventing unauthorized access. Option A is effective but depends on proper use and monitoring. Option B is also effective but often used in combination with other controls. Option C focuses on crime prevention through design but may not directly prevent unauthorized access. Option D is highly effective due to active monitoring and ability to respond to unauthorized access attempts. Hence, the correct answer is Option D, security guards. Security guards provide an active, responsive layer of security that is crucial for preventing unauthorized access. Let us now move on to our next question. What is a primary objective of crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED? The options are: Option A, reducing energy use. Option B, enhancing natural surveillance. Option C, maximizing tech-based controls. Option D, implementing stricter policies. Let us review each option to find the correct answer. Option A focuses on energy efficiency, which is not the focus of CPTED. Option B aims to deter crime by improving visibility and surveillance through design. Option C emphasizes on environmental design rather than relying solely on technology. Option D focuses on design strategies, not just policy enforcement. And hence, the correct answer is Option B, enhancing natural surveillance. Let us briefly discuss about crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED. This approach focuses on reducing crime by influencing the physical environment in which we live and work. The idea is simple: by designing spaces with security in mind, we can deter potential criminals before they even act. CPTED is built on 4 key principles: natural surveillance, natural access control, territorial reinforcement, and maintenance. Natural surveillance. The first principle is natural surveillance. This involves designing spaces to maximize visibility. When people can easily see what's happening around them, it creates a natural deterrent to criminal behavior. Examples include installing ample lighting, designing buildings with plenty of windows, and avoiding blind spots in landscaping. The more eyes on the street, the less likely someone is to commit a crime. Natural access control. Next is natural access control. This principle guides people through spaces by design, using entrances, exits, fences, and pathways to direct the flow of traffic. By controlling how people move through an area, we can limit access to vulnerable spots, reducing the opportunities for crime. For instance, installing gates or barriers to limit access to private areas or using pathways to guide visitors through a space are effective strategies. Territorial reinforcement. The third principle is territorial reinforcement. This concept emphasizes the use of physical design to express ownership and define spaces. When an area looks cared for and clearly marked as someone's property, it discourages criminal activity because the space feels like it's being monitored. Examples include using signs to mark private property, distinctive landscaping to separate private and public areas, and fences or walls to delineate boundaries. Maintenance. The final principle is maintenance. A well-maintained environment signals that the area is monitored and cared for, which can deter crime. Neglected areas tend to attract vandalism and other criminal behavior. Regular upkeep, such as repairing broken windows, maintaining lighting, and removing graffiti, sends a message that the space is cared for and watched over. The ultimate goal of CPTED is deterrence. By designing our environment in a way that discourages criminal behavior, we create safer spaces for everyone. It is a proactive approach, focusing on prevention rather than response. It's about making small, strategic design choices that have a big impact on safety and security. In summary, CPTED is a powerful tool in our security toolkit. By applying its principles, natural surveillance, natural access control, territorial reinforcement, and maintenance, we can create environments that are not only aesthetically pleasing but also inherently secure. What is the most significant benefit of implementing multi-factor authentication, or MFA, in a corporate environment? The options are: Option A, reduces reliance on complex passwords. Option B, lowers the risk of account compromise. Option C, simplifies the login process. Option D, enhances user experience. Let us review each option. Option A, while MFA supports password security, it doesn't eliminate the need for strong passwords. Option B, MFA significantly lowers the risk of account compromise by requiring multiple verification factors. Option C, MFA adds steps, potentially complicating the login process rather than simplifying it. Option D, although MFA enhances security, it may not always improve user experience due to additional verification steps. In summary, MFA's primary advantage is its effectiveness in reducing the likelihood of account compromise, which is Option B. Let us now try to understand what MFA is and how its implementation secures the access control. In today's digital world, securing access to systems and data is more important than ever. One of the most effective ways to do this is through multi-factor authentication, or MFA. So, what is MFA? Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a security mechanism that requires users to provide two or more verification factors before they can gain access to a system. These factors are grouped into three main categories. The first factor is the knowledge factor, also known as something you know. This typically involves a password or a PIN, a piece of information that the user knows and must enter to verify their identity. The second factor is the possession factor, also known as something you have. This could be a physical token, a smart card, or a mobile device. For instance, after entering your password, you might be prompted to enter a one-time code sent to your phone. The third factor is the inference factor, also known as something you are. This refers to biometrics, such as a fingerprint, facial recognition, or an iris scan. It's based on a physical characteristic unique to the user. Now, why is MFA so important? MFA significantly enhances security because it requires multiple forms of verification. Even if one factor, like your password, is compromised, the other factors add additional layers of protection against unauthorized access. This is particularly crucial when safeguarding sensitive data in environments like financial systems or healthcare records. MFA helps defend against phishing attacks and credential theft by making it much harder for attackers to gain access, even if they manage to steal your password. Let's consider a real-world example. Imagine you're logging into your online banking account. First, you enter your username and password, which is your knowledge factor or something you know. Then, you're asked to enter a code sent to your mobile device, which is your possession factor or something you have. Finally, you use facial recognition on your device to confirm your identity, which is your inference factor or something you are. This layered approach ensures that even if your password is compromised, the attacker would still need your phone and your biometric data to access your account. In summary, MFA is a critical component of modern security practices. By requiring more than just a password, it greatly reduces the chances of unauthorized access, making it an essential element in maintaining secure digital environments. What is the primary purpose of implementing access controls within an organization? Option A, monitor productivity. Option B, differentiate authorized versus unauthorized. Option C, track attendance. Option D, prevent data theft. Let us review the options. To find the correct answer, Option A, monitoring productivity, is not the main goal of access controls. Access controls are focused on managing who can access various resources, not on evaluating employee performance. Option B. The primary purpose of access controls is to ensure that only authorized individuals have access to specific resources or areas, thereby preventing unauthorized access. Option C. While access controls can assist with tracking attendance by recording entry and exit times, their main function is to control access rather than manage attendance. Option D. Although access controls help protect sensitive information, their primary function is to regulate access to resources, not specifically to prevent data theft. Post-review of each option, we can now conclude that Option B, differentiate authorized versus unauthorized, is correct, because the primary purpose of access controls is to ensure that only authorized individuals can access specific resources, preventing unauthorized access. Let us now move on to our next question. Which of the following best exemplifies the principle of least privilege in an organization? Here are the options. Option A, admin access to all. Option B, access only as needed. Option C, access after background checks. Option D, time-based restrictions. Let us review each option to find the best answer. Option A, granting admin access to all employees violates the principle of least privilege, as it provides more access than necessary. Option B, the principle of least privilege dictates that users should only have access to the resources necessary for their job functions, minimizing potential risks. Option C, while background checks are important for security, they do not relate directly to limiting access based on need. Access should be restricted based on job requirements, not just background checks. Option D, time-based restrictions are a useful security measure but do not specifically address the principle of least privilege, which focuses on minimizing access levels based on job roles. Hence, Option B, access only as needed, is correct, because it aligns with the principle of least privilege by ensuring that individuals have only the access necessary to perform their job functions. Let us now move on to our next question. Why is segregation of duties an essential component of access control within an organization? Let us look at the options. Option A, reduces staff in sensitive roles. Option B, speeds up decision-making. Option C, simplifies auditing. Option D, prevents single control over critical processes. Let us understand each option to find the correct answer. Option A, segregation of duties, often increases the number of staff involved in sensitive roles to ensure that no single individual has excessive control, which helps prevent fraud or errors. Option B, segregation of duties, may actually slow down decision-making, as it requires coordination among multiple individuals. However, it is implemented to improve security, not to expedite processes. Option C, while segregation of duties can aid in auditing by providing clear division of responsibilities, its primary purpose is not to simplify auditing, but to prevent conflicts of interest and fraud. Option D, segregation of duties, ensures that no single individual has control over all aspects of critical processes, reducing the risk of fraud, errors, and conflicts of interest by distributing responsibilities among multiple people. Hence, the correct answer is Option D, as the primary purpose of segregation of duties is to ensure that no single person has full control over a critical process, thereby mitigating the risk of fraud and mistakes. Let us now go to our next question. Which characteristic is most associated with discretionary access control, or DAC? Here are the options. Option A, admin determines access. Option B, access by roles. Option C, resource owner decides. Option D, controlled by strict policies. Let us review each option to find the correct answer. Option A. In DAC, the control over access is given to the resource owner, not the administrator. The administrator may have overall system control, but individual resource owners determine who can access their resources. Option B, access by roles is a characteristic of role-based access control, RBAC, where permissions are assigned based on job roles rather than the discretion of individual resource owners. Option C. In DAC, the key characteristic is that the resource owner has the authority to grant or revoke access to their resources. This flexibility is central to DAC, allowing owners to control access based on their discretion. Option D. This is more aligned with mandatory access control, or MAC, where access is determined by strict policies and classifications, not by the discretion of resource owners. To conclude, option C, resource owner decides, is the correct answer, because discretionary access control, or DAC, is characterized by the ability of the resource owner to determine who has access to their resources, granting them the authority to make access decisions. This distinguishes DAC from other access control models like RBAC and MAC. Let us now move on to our next question. In which environment is mandatory access control, or MAC, most appropriate? Here are the options. Option A, government agency. Option B, cloud-based company. Option C, small business. Option D, startup. Let us now review each option to find the best fit. Option A, a government agency, handles classified information, and MAC is ideal for such environments, requiring stringent control over access. Option B, while cloud services may require strong security, MAC's rigidity may not be suitable for the dynamic nature of cloud environments. Option C, a small business has flexible access needs, while MAC is too rigid for environments that require flexibility in access control. Option D, a startup focuses on innovation and creativity. Startups typically require flexible access controls, making MAC less appropriate. Thus, option A is correct, because a government agency is an environment that typically requires the high level of control and security provided by MAC, making it the most appropriate choice. Let us go to the next question now. Which of the following best describes role-based access control, or RBAC? The options are: Option A, based on sensitivity. Option B, users modify access. Option C, time or location restrictions. Option D, access by job function. Let's analyze the options to identify which one best describes role-based access control. Option A, access decisions are made based on the sensitivity of the information. This is more aligned with mandatory access control, or MAC, rather than RBAC. Option B, users can modify access rights for resources they own. This is characteristic of discretionary access control, or DAC, and not RBAC. Option C, access is restricted based on time and location. This describes contextual access control, not RBAC. Hence, the correct answer is option D, as RBAC is fundamentally about assigning access rights based on the job functions or roles within the organization. Now, let us explore the key differences between three common access control models: discretionary access control, mandatory access control, and role-based access control. We will break it down into a few important categories. First up, control authority. Discretionary access control, or DAC, is where the resource owner controls access. In contrast, mandatory access control, or MAC, places control with a central authority or the system itself. Lastly, role-based access control, or RBAC, assigns access based on roles that are defined by the organization. Next, let's talk about flexibility. DAC is highly flexible since users can grant or revoke access as they see fit. MAC is quite rigid, as users cannot change access levels. RBAC falls somewhere in between, offering moderate flexibility because roles can be created or modified as needed. Now, how are access decisions made? In DAC, access is determined by ownership and the user's discretion. MAC relies on security labels assigned to both users and resources. RBAC makes decisions based on the roles assigned to users. Let's consider some typical use cases. DAC is often found in less sensitive environments where flexibility is a priority, such as in general office settings. MAC is used in highly secure environments, like government or military operations, where strict control over information is essential. RBAC is widely used in medium to large organizations where it's important to manage access efficiently across many users. What about implementation complexity? DAC is generally simple to implement. MAC, however, is more complex because of the strict controls and classification systems involved. RBAC is moderately complex, especially in large organizations where many roles need to be defined and managed. Security level. DAC offers a lower level of security because users can share access with others. MAC provides high security with stringent controls over information flow. RBAC offers moderate to high security, depending on how well roles are defined. Scalability. DAC is less scalable because managing individual permissions can be challenging as the organization grows. MAC, while scalable, is complex to manage. RBAC, on the other hand, is highly scalable. Roles simplify the process of managing access across large numbers of users. Let's look at some examples. DAC is commonly seen in systems like Windows file permissions or Unix file permissions. MAC is typically found in classified government systems or secure military systems. RBAC is prevalent in enterprise applications like HR systems or finance systems. User involvement. DAC involves high user participation, as users themselves manage permissions. MAC involves low user participation since the system or administrators enforce the rules. RBAC users are simply assigned roles and have no direct involvement in setting permissions. Finally, risk of misconfiguration. DAC has a higher risk of misconfiguration because users manage access. MAC has a lower risk since central control reduces the chances of mistakes. RBAC carries a moderate risk, depending largely on how well roles are defined and managed. And lastly, policy enforcement. In DAC, policies are enforced based on user discretion and ownership of files or resources. In MAC, enforcement is based on strict security policies and classifications. In RBAC, policies are enforced based on predefined roles and responsibilities. To summarize, discretionary access control provides flexibility, but at a potential cost to security. Mandatory access control is the most secure, but also the most rigid and complex. Role-based access control strikes a balance, offering both security and scalability, making it suitable for many organizational settings. Thank you for joining us in today's session on Domain 3, Access Controls Concepts. We hope you found the information helpful as you prepare for the Certified in Cybersecurity exam. Remember, understanding access controls is vital to protecting your organization's assets, and mastering this domain will put you in a strong position for the exam. We appreciate your continued support. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. Good luck with your studies, and we'll see you in the next video.